Well, hello everybody. It's Kimberly Sheridan from Losing It with Kimberly. Thanks for joining me again today. I'm getting a late start. It's 10:55 in the morning. I woke up this morning, I had yesterday when I was still on the treadmill. I was talking to you guys, and then when I finished out my last 30 minutes, I started feeling sort of dizzy reading on my computer, and I was thinking, oh, well, maybe I can't go any faster than 3.0 miles per hour in the future while working on my computer because this is making me dizzy. However, a couple of minutes later, it struck me, oh, ding dong, this is because this is how your migraine comes on. It starts being sort of like a tingling feeling in my nasal passages on the right-hand side of my face, and then it starts stinging behind my right eye, and then it turns into pain of a migraine and just like increases from there. So it's not that I might not in the future be able to go more than 3.0 miles per hour and still type and read things on the computer, because I was starting to think, okay, well, I guess I'll only be able to, if I go faster, I'll only be able to, watch certain videos or listen to audios or something that doesn't require me to read on the screen. And that's not true. That's true on a migraine day. So I had the migraine the rest of the day. Even with medicine, it just sticks around for a day, goes away for a while, and then comes back for half a day. So it's gone for now. It was here still this morning, which is why I didn't come straight to the treadmill, because I hadn't taken medicine all night, but I just didn't feel good enough to get on the treadmill at the beginning. And I thought, well, no harm. I'll just wait a little bit. And I ended up waiting longer than I anticipated, because I got up at 6:30, didn't make it to the treadmill till almost 11. And truly, by about 9:30, the migraine had sort of gone away. Like I said, it'll come back later this afternoon, very likely. It doesn't always act now in menopausal or perimenopausal years, wherever I'm at. It doesn't always act like it did, the first 2 or 3 decades of my life. But we'll see if it comes back. The good news is that no matter how it acts, it won't be here tomorrow. That much I know. At least that's been my experience my whole lifetime. So we're sticking with that. In any case, a late start today. I did push myself to get down here before I ate anything. I think I've mentioned before, I don't really eat anything in the morning typically, because I really just don't get hungry until around this time, around 10:30 or 11, and by then I'll end up eating something more lunchy than breakfasty. So a couple things come into play when it comes to exercising later in the day for me, and later in the day meaning not the first thing in the morning. The first thing, as I've said before, is that there's pretty much a time ticking, right, between when my feet hit the floor getting out of bed and when they hit the treadmill to begin exercising. Motivation's going down, right? So it's like an inverse relationship with time. So as time increases between getting out of the bed and getting to the treadmill, as the time is increasing, my motivation is decreasing. So I can't wait further and further and further into the day and think that I'm not going to have to fight myself harder to get on the treadmill, because I will. That's just how my personal motivation works. I'm a morning person. That's where most of my energy is. So that might be the case. Some of you, if you're not a morning person, if you're an afternoon, midday, evening person, you might find just the opposite to be true. That's why I think that we sort of have to make a plan that works with what aligns with our natural biorhythms, and obviously with our schedules, because we do live in a world that is run by certain schedules if you're still working. But in any case, I've got the motivation factor going there, but then I also have food. So, if I eat, then I'll have food in my stomach, and I don't want to, I'll feel bad if I go on the treadmill. I mean, traditionally I'd feel bad. I guess with walking I might not. I don't know. With running, I just never ate anything before I ran, and that's why working out in the morning worked also. So I wouldn't have any food on my stomach, like not even a banana. My daughter likes to eat something before she exercises, or she actually feels like she needs to eat something. But teenagers' metabolisms, I mean, she's sometimes hungry in the middle of the night. Like, will wake up in the middle of the night hungry, even though she ate totally, a totally full day's worth of food. Because they're still growing and developing. Those little cells are in there, still in there multiplying, So they need more calories than we do. I mean, honestly, I looked it up at one point. I feel like I can't remember how old she was and her brother was at the time, but I feel like they were maybe, 11, 12, 10, something in there, and they needed more calories than I did, right? Because they're just still growing. But for me, I don't like eating in the morning. So that's another thing that I knew if I didn't get down here before I ate something, it would only add one more problem to the mix. So that's why I'm here now. It's now, a little bit after 11 now. And that's why I'm here now, because I want to make sure that I get this done before I eat. And then eating my lunch can be my reward as well, right? And I've always worked out in the morning time well, that's not exactly true. I mean, I think in my 20s, when I had my first corporate job, so out of college, living on my own for the first time, I think I worked out in the evenings, and my goal was then, unless I had something more fun to do. So if there was a happy hour, or every Thursday there was music, there were bands that would play down in this certain little business complex right after work, or if I had plans with friends or whatever in the evening, I would work out in the morning. But on a general basis, I think at that time, of course, I had no other responsibilities besides myself. So I think at that time I would work out in the evenings, right after work. But the other thing with that is I think I was also doing classes still, group classes. I remember doing machines also, but I think I was doing also group classes, and those are, typically held at certain times, so you choose to work out whenever they're going to offer the kind of class that you want to do. And if you have a full-time job, you can't do the ones that are at 10 in the morning, right? That might be the other time that they're offering the class that you want to do. So, there's a lot of factors. Because I've lived in different places, I've probably belonged to more than 15 gyms my whole, over the course of my life. And when I would move to a new place, that was sort of one of the big, I want to say top 3, maybe top 4. I'd find a place to live. Well, I'd have a job. Then I'd find a place to live. Then I would find the grocery store, food. The grocery store is food. The grocery store, a gym, and library and bookstores. And that pretty much sums up who I am. I love to learn and read. And at that time, before the internet, yes, there was that time, of course, before the internet. At that time, reading was a big way to learn. So books, working out, eating food, because I love to cook. If I choose different recipes and try different recipes. I used to subscribe to Cooking Light for decades, and they always had really healthy, yummy recipes, at least worth a try. Not everyone was a winner, but, that was sort of what I cooked all my recipes from, which was great because it made it a lot easier, to eat healthy if somebody's already calculated out what all the nutrition facts are for recipes. So much more information available now, than used to be available, but that made it super easy, way back when. In any case, those were my top things I would spy out, and so the gym being one of them, I, have belonged to many, many, many gyms, and have assessed what I like at a gym and what I don't. And now, all that sort of to the side for now, right? Because for time considerations, I am working out at home really for the first time. I mean, I would almost say before starting this program, I had maybe worked out at home a total in my life of less than 10 times. Maybe even 0. I mean, truly can't even remember them. I think in an earlier, recording way back at the beginning of this, I mentioned I would buy programs to use at home, and I would just literally never use them. I just couldn't find the motivation to do it. However, times are changing, and this is working for me for now, right? So this is what I'm going to stick with for now. And I encourage you to do the same. Be like loose with yourself and choose things that you're going to stick with, right? One day I mentioned on this recording, the Bollywood dance videos that I saw for sale on Facebook. I hadn't even considered Bollywood dance. I mean, I love watching them dance, but I'd never considered that being a fun workout before. Just because of the way I thought about working out. And now that my mind has shifted, I'm thinking, hey, I might get that, because I know, over even just the course of this next year, I'm going to change and maybe be motivated by different things or get bored with different things that I have been doing. And for me, that's a big piece of the motivation. If I get bored with the workout I'm doing, or I get bored with the music that I have to do the workout I'm doing, things start going downhill pretty quickly. And then if I don't have time to create, I can create a new workout, but I used to pair my music with my workout. And finding music is time consuming. So if I don't have time to find new music for a new workout, things would just go downhill quickly. So I think it's probably a good idea that in my mind, at least, I'm stacking up these things, that might be future possibilities of what I'm going to do when I start coming down to this treadmill. I've been going I don't want to do that. Don't worry, I'll still talk to you the same amount of time about the same kinds of things, but I can't say that I'm going to be doing this treadmill a year from now just like this for an hour. Things will evolve as I evolve. So I did a couple of things in the past 24 hours that are sort of fun and indicative of what's coming down the pike next. I ordered 25-pound dumbbells. And for me, that's a future thing. I can't do 25-pound dumbbells. I can't do any exercise with 25-pound dumbbells right now. And I'm not sure I've ever used 25-pound dumbbells to do anything. When I was at the gym, when I was in really good shape, I could have, done something with them. But I did a lot of, number one, there's a lot of machines there in addition to dumbbells that I worked on. And number two, I did a lot of body weight moves that required a lot of upper body strength, but didn't involve dumbbells. So, I did regular push-ups, normal push-ups on my toes. But then I also did push-ups where you take a medicine ball and you have that under one of your hands and your other hand is on the floor like normal. And you do a push-up, and then you roll the medicine ball to the opposite hand, and you have that under that hand and the other hand on the floor. You do a push-up, and that's challenging your muscles differently. And then I did, without the medicine ball, did normal push-ups, and then at the up position, did a total body twist. That requires different muscles and a lot of upper body strength. I used a stability ball. I would put that under my legs, be in a push-up position with the stability ball under my shins, and then sort of roll my feet up, I guess, onto top of the stability ball. So I'm making a triangle with my body and the floor. So the floor is one side, my upper body's another side of the triangle, and my lower body is the third side of the triangle. And that requires a lot of upper body strength. So I know that over this period of time, I know that I can become stronger. I don't know that I can lose weight. I've had some experiences in the last several years where I've actually done what should have led to weight loss and didn't. I've had some experiences where it led to half of the weight loss it quote unquote should have led to, and then I gained the weight back, eating a number of calories that should have easily been within a maintenance mode number of calories. So I've had some negative experiences with the loss of pounds and fat. However, I haven't had any negative experiences with the development of strength. During the worst times, the most stressful times when I had adrenal fatigue and my body, ached so much that I wanted to go to bed every day by 12 noon. Guess, again, I always forget this. The 12 noon was more fatigue the body aches would sort of crescendo around 4 or 5 p.m. such that I just felt like I needed to lay down and couldn't go on with the day. But during those, the worst times, I wasn't trying to exercise. So I didn't really develop a negative belief around my ability to condition my muscles and gain strength. And so pretty much I have an entire history, even during these most recent years, the times that I have tried to get back into shape, even if I didn't lose a lot of weight, I still saw that I could improve my strength because I would see that I could take the numbers. If it's a weight machine, I could start to, lift more. If it's dumbbells, I could start to use one that weighed more. I'm doing the same exercise, right? So I don't have any negative beliefs around strength. And I think for me at this point, it's motivating, since I don't know if I can control my weight loss. It's motivating to look at the thing that I do believe I still have direct control of. Like if I do cause, I will get effect, and that is more motivating for me. And so I ordered these 25-pound dumbbells, and they're on back order, which is fine because, like I said, I can't use them for anything now, and I'm not even sure when I'll be able to use them for anything. But ordering them is sort of a sign of but ordering them is a sign of hope, right? It's a sign of I'm moving towards something that I can feel good about and see progress toward along the way. And at some point, I do believe I'll be able to do some exercises with those 25-pounders. Could I do exercises, focusing on my triceps? Probably not. I'm not sure that I've ever done anything with that much weight that was focused directly on my triceps, but I'll be able to do something. At the very least, not now at all, but as I build up, at the very least, I'll be able to do chest presses, maybe bicep curls. I can't remember if I've ever gotten to 25 pounds of bicep curls, but maybe. We'll see. For now, the 15s are quite enough. But that's one of the things I've done the last 24 hours. Another thing was I went ahead and ordered that Conway diet book. I talked to you a couple days ago, yesterday, one of those days, about the fact that my mom, when I was, 11 or 12 years old, taught this program called the Conway Diet, which I did find out that it was indeed developed by a man who lived in Columbus, Ohio, as I was remembering that correctly. It looks like the book only had one edition, and at least the edition that's available online is from 1979. So that lines up, right, with my memory of roughly how old I was. I was born in 68, right? So that would have put me at 11. So my mom was probably teaching it around when I was 11 or 12. And for those of you that didn't hear that day, she pretty much taught this program. It was run like a Weight Watchers program. She would once a week have a meeting space. Women would sign up for the program. I say women, I think it was all women, I'm not positive, but, and she would teach them some lesson for that meeting, and then they would have weigh-ins, and then they would have support group kind of structure. And this program, I was remembering it to be 1,200 calories a day. Actually, on the front of this cookbook, it says 1,000. And when you buy used books online that have been out of print forever and ever, you're not getting to quote-unquote look inside them like you would on Amazon typically with a new book, right? So I don't know what the content of this book is. I know it says on the front 500 slenderizing recipes. So I think number one, I'm not sure if I'll ever use any of the recipes, but number two, I think it will be two things: entertaining to see how they presented information back then, because you have to believe it's going to be way different than we present it now. Even that word slenderizing is funny to me. Number two, though, I'm hoping that the book is not just recipes. I'm hoping that it has some content of what the guidelines were for the diet program. As I remember it, it was very healthy. It was about eating healthy meals. It was about and healthy snacks. Go figure, what worked in 1979 still works for our bodies today. I think back then, I'm not sure, it'll be interesting to see if they address the 1,200 calorie mark, because as I mentioned on the front of this book, it does say 1,000 calorie diet. And these days they say they don't typically want you to dip below 1,200 in a day, so your body doesn't go into quote-unquote starvation mode and start holding on to fat instead. But a lot of that 1,200 number is really based on what we talked about another day, which is your basal metabolic rate, which is the number of calories your body needs in order to just stay alive every day. So to make your lungs and heart and brain and liver and kidneys, continue to function, even if you were just laying, on a bed all day. There's a certain number of calories that your body needs to keep itself alive, and that's called your basal metabolic rate. And then anything else we do in terms of activity is on top of that. So any standing you do, even sitting, burns more calories than laying down. Standing, walking, running, other exercises, weightlifting, dancing, playing tennis, gardening, anything else that you do that burns calories is on top of that basal metabolic rate. So it'll be interesting to see if anything has changed. I mean, when I was, born in 1968, as I mentioned, now this is just one doctor's perspective, but my mom's doctor didn't want her to gain more than 15 pounds when she was pregnant, and I ended up being 8 pounds, 13 ounces, So that is gaining less than 7 pounds for her, which is crazy, right? These days they educate us about how much more. I think we increase our blood volume by 50%. I believe, I'm thinking back to when I was pregnant, which was now 16 years ago, but I think that's what I remember. And you've got amniotic fluid, and you're also retaining fluid. There's all sorts of things that go into what accounts for our weight gain during pregnancy, and 15 pounds is an extreme view. So the interesting part is, looking back, this book might have some things in it that are shocking to us today. In general, it was a healthy weight loss program for sure, but what was thought of as the right way to go about things back then, might be different. So I was just curious. One day I might, make a video about that. Just if I glean enough interesting things from that, I might make a video about it, because I just think it's interesting to look at the bigger picture of where we've been and where we're going in order to understand, that this isn't just, I need to lose weight to weigh this on the scale. I mean, in the big realm of things, it's relatively meaningless that we go for a certain number on the scale. At this point for me, that's another revelation sort of that I had that shows me that I'm moving forward in my journey and in my thinking. I was looking up, and I'll talk about this in more detail tomorrow probably, but I was looking at my weight on the body mass index and seeing that currently, you've got underweight, normal weight, based on your height, certain weight ranges that categorize into underweight, normal weight, overweight, and obese. And currently, I'm overweight, but I'm far closer to obese than I am, quote unquote, normal weight. And we'll talk about this tomorrow, but the body mass index charts are not accurate for everyone, but they're probably accurate guidelines to follow, at least for most people listening today. And like I said, I'll go into who they don't work for tomorrow. But for most people listening, they probably are guidelines that you could roughly follow. And so for me, instead of saying, hey, I want to weigh this by this date, or I want to weigh this ultimately, this is my goal, and if I don't see that number on the scale, then I haven't been successful, versus saying that, what I was looking at is doing the math and thinking, well, gosh, if I lose a pound a week, I could be down to normal range. I think it's near the top of the normal range, but I could be down to normal range by the end of this year. And while that, again, isn't particularly meaningful, it's sort of motivational to me because, to me, my weight reflects the poor health that I've experienced in the last decade. And while some circumstances, have changed for me and things have improved, I still carry the weight. So either my metabolism is messed up, or I've certainly continued to eat junk. So maybe it's that when my metabolism, got messed up during the most stressful times, and then I sacrificed to do the right things, and then I still either didn't get the results, or I got the result and then having to do double work than should have been necessary, and then lost all of my hard work in double time that shouldn't have happened at the calorie intake that I had when I thought I could maintain. I think maybe I just lost hope that I had any control at all. And that's when I was like, well, forget it then. I'm just going to eat junk. I still eat healthy meals because that's how I was raised. But I think I also just said, well, why should I even try? So it sort of doubles the effect, right, of not only was my body not, processing calories properly anymore, but then I doubled the effect by sort of giving up and saying, if I want that, I'm going to eat it, fine, So I think there's a lot of, as I move forward, I'll be making the changes that I can make, and I might find that I do need medical intervention in order to be able to get down to the normal range of weight. However, the only way I can find out if I'm in a different circumstance now than I was in the past several years is by doing it, right? And I think for me, looking at the calendar and going, oh wow, just in this calendar year, I could be down to that normal range, motivates me, So it's not, the focus isn't on what's the scale going to say, even though the scale would have to report a certain weight for me to be in the normal range. I'm not focusing on hitting a certain number because the normal range is a range of pounds that you can weigh. So my only goal is to be somewhere in that range. Even if it's 1 pound different from the overweight range, it's just to be able to feel like, okay, I have some control. Like if I cut back on things, I have some control over making my weight go down. And, if I eat some things for a short period of time and don't gain back a pound a week or whatever, maybe I'll feel hopeful that I can maintain it, And hope is a big factor, It's a big factor for our motivation. If we don't believe that we can achieve something through doing the right things, where's the motivation going to come from to do them, Like I said, the ordering of the 25-pound weights is like shooting an arrow toward what I want. Even though I know I'm not there yet and don't know when I'll be there, but I know I can get there because of my history of what I've done in the past, and because even in recent years, the times I have tried to get stronger, I did get stronger. So there's no negative, experience there. There's times I wasn't working out and I got weaker, and that was sad. I have a story about that one day too. I'll tell you about when I went to this place called Go Ape, which is like an outdoor adventure center with my daughter. But anyway, so I'll tell you about that a different day. But in any case, getting weaker and weaker and weaker and surprising myself at how weak I was, is really sad. However, when I've made an effort to change that, I've gotten the result. And that's different than what I experienced with trying to lose fat and or trying to maintain fat loss. That was a different thing. So I've ordered my 25-pound weights. I've ordered my Calm Way diet book, and I also today got an email from ACE, the American Council on Exercise. That's the organization that I previously had my personal training certification through, and who I would get it through again when I do go for doing that later this. Hopefully I find time to do it later this year. And I got an email today that said that the certification tests are 40% off. I get their emails every week, multiple times a week. They discount their training programs that prepare you for those certification tests, but they've never sent through an email that gave you a discount off of the actual certification test. And I didn't feel like I needed the training programs. They're hundreds of dollars on the training programs to prepare you for the test, and the test itself is hundreds of dollars. And I just never felt like this time around. Last time I passed it with just studying the book. And this time I'm happy to say that this version of the book that they have now, the trainer manual, is much more intense and there is much more medical terminology. And I mean, just glancing through it, it's just much more in depth. And I remember thinking back when I originally got my certification, thinking to myself, oh my gosh, any dodo bird can get their certification. This is not very hard. And so I think they're one of the most reputable organizations at least in the United States. I don't really know about around the world, but they're one of the top organizations, and that's why I got my certification from them. That's why I got my certification from them. But they've majorly upped their game from then, which was 2007, till now. And I'm happy, to report that, because that means the quality of people out there who are becoming certified as personal trainers, at least through this organization, their quality is going to be higher. But what that means for me is that I need to set aside even more time to prepare for the exam. So the 40% email coming through, 40% off the actual certification exam, is I've never seen it in the past several years. I've never seen them discount that. So that's pretty cool, right? Sign from the universe. That's something I should take advantage of. However, I've got to look at the fine lines of information at the bottom to see if it is, number one, did I read it right? Number two, is there a timeline, right, that I have to do it by a certain time, because I might not be able to accomplish that in terms of the studying to prepare for it, because this is a really thick manual, and like I said, the information is much more complicated and dense. So I'll need time to prepare for it. And even so, I can't remember the exact numbers. I think the 40% off was still $509. I think those were the numbers, and the normal price for it would be $899. Previously I've had an online chat, but this was like 3 or 4 years ago. I had an online chat with them where I was told I could recertify for $199 because I previously had the certification. But now 3 or 4 more years have passed, so that offer might not be available anymore. But I might check into that before I commit to doing this other one, the 40% off, which is much more. But we'll see if all the stars align for the timing, of that to be workable for me. Otherwise, I'll just have to pay more later. But to me, it's worth it to certify to myself. As I mentioned yesterday or the day before, I never plan to work with individual clients again. But I want to certify to myself that I am up to date on the latest and the greatest that's been done in terms of studies with all aspects of fitness. And, organizations like this are in the forefront. And then over 2 years or so, that information trickles down to the general public, so then articles are written and magazines are published, with this information. And these days, maybe it's not 2 years. It used to be a long time before the more technical stuff got down to being available. Now, maybe it's less time. But, I just want to make sure that I'm studying from the source, and they sponsor lots of research studies, and they are constantly learning to improve, and they don't have a new edition of this book every year because they are constantly gathering new information to pull together into a new version and have multiple layers of internal groups and external consultants that evaluate the efficacy of the information they're going to put in the new version. So it's very much more like a textbook, than it is a general reading book to learn how to get in shape. It's just a big commitment, but for me, I would just feel better that I am on the forefront of knowledge, and what I'm talking about with you and the other programs that I'm doing, even though I never plan to work with an individual client again. So those are the things that have moved forward for me just in the last 24 hours. And, they're things that are just coming along down the pike. I don't really have a thing anymore because there's just too many unknown factors for me in regard to demands on my time that can change at the turn of a dime. If something happens with my mother, or one of my kids, health-wise, more likely in this case my mother, she can't advocate for herself at all. She's 0% advocacy for herself. So I need to be able to step in at any moment. I do cringe every time I get a phone call, because it could be something that's going to, be a major impact on my life for months. I don't know what's coming down the pike. So it's a different position to be in. Being able to set a goal and say, these are the steps toward the goal, and I can achieve it by this date because I'm estimating how long each of these steps is going to take. Historically, that's how I lived my life. Worked out pretty well. That's not the case now, so I can't even commit to when I'll do the certification, but I do know that's coming down the pike. I do know that my ability to do at least some exercises with 25-pound dumbbells is coming down the pike. And, I do know that if all goes well, I might have a shot at being back in normal range of weight on the body mass index chart by the end of this calendar year. So that's sort of where I'm aiming, and we'll see if I get there. I'm going to do everything I can to get there within what I have control of, and that's all I can do. And for many of you, perhaps that's all you can do. There's probably many people listening that have their own factors that are coming into play. So just be set goals, but have them be loose guidelines for what you're moving toward rather than being hard guidelines about success and failure. Either you hit this and you succeed, or you don't hit it and you fail. Some of us can't do that anymore, whether it's the change in our bodies that we no longer have direct control of through straight up cause and effect, or whether it's the, responsibilities we have in our life. But that doesn't mean you can't improve every single day, at least every single week. Maybe you have a day that's off, but every single week, most weeks, you can probably make some sort of improvement. Feel good about that improvement and let that be the fuel that keeps you on that path, or let that be the fuel that encourages you to start something else that you want to work on. It's not all health stuff either. Feeling proud of yourself because you set some sort of goal for yourself and then hit it. Feeling proud of yourself fuels you to make other changes in your life too that might have nothing to do with your physical health. Because we're whole human beings and everything impacts everything. So for today, I think that's it for today. I will talk with you again tomorrow. Hope you have a splendiferous day. Get things done that you want to get done and get a good night's sleep. And I will see you here tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.